We have more analysis for you on Barack Obama's pick for the CIA head and his upcoming confirmation hearing. And for that, I'm joined by John Glasser, senior editor at antiwar.com. Sir, thanks for taking the time to speak with us. Now, when you look at the discourse coming out in the press about this confirmation hearing, I mean, it really feels like Obama's counterterrorism policies are more on trial here than the actual confirmation. Now, the question is, why is this happening now? Why are we now looking into these controversial tactics such as drone strikes, targeted killings, interrogation methods? Why now?
Well, the nomination of John Brennan to the director of the Central Intelligence Agency has brought these issues to a head. And furthermore, this week, there was a leaked memo from the Justice Department that detailed the executive branch's legal rationale for killing Americans in targeted assassinations without due process or any checks or balances or transparency on that power to do so. Brennan, when it comes down to it, when you boil it down, he's really represents two of the most controversial post 9/11 war on terror national security policies that the government has had. The first is the torture program during the Bush administration, which he voiced support for and called the rendition program a vital tool. And the second is, of course, his spearheading of the Obama administration's extraordinary expansion of the secret drone program, literally steering the targeting process and the legal and logistical architecture of the drone wars, which have killed on the order of 3,000 people, mainly in Pakistan and Yemen. And as we know, there's few limits on what John Brennan is willing to justify through force and coercion in the executive branch and in the intelligence community, because he's even gone so far as to justify killing American citizens and depriving them of their Fifth Amendment rights. So, what's really unfortunate is that these two programs are also examples of where the government, the U.S. government, has waded into very controversial grounds, what many consider to be criminal areas of activity, and has faced no accountability for it.
John, I want to get to that in just a minute, but you just cited some of the criticisms that John Brennan had experienced. In fact, he was forced to withdraw his candidacy when he was up for nomination back in 2008 over criticism about his role in these controversial interrogation techniques. Why do you think he's now seen as the man for the job by President Obama, considering this controversial history?
Right. So he was considered as the man for the job by President Obama in 2009 when Obama nominated him, was thinking about nominating him for the same position. But Obama faced scrutiny because he was at the same time talking about closing Guantanamo Bay, banning torture. He criticized the Bush administration's war on terror policies. And so it seemed too much of a contradiction to put these two things right next to each other. But now we've had 4 years of the Obama administration's ruthless drone war, which has replaced the Bush administration's detention programs and torture programs. And so it doesn't seem like that much of a contradiction. Now Brennan and George Tenet and George Bush and President Obama seem all in the same pile.
And, you started to get at this point earlier, but I want to talk a little bit about these actual programs that the U.S. government has been using. For example, the drone strikes. When you look at their use, I mean, some critics have said that this, in fact, creates more terrorism because people are turned off by these kinds of killings. What do you make in general? You had mentioned perhaps it was an illegal type of program. What do you make in general of the Obama counterterrorism policies to date?
Well, primarily, when you mentioned the drone war and its ability to generate a blowback, this is essentially a fact. It's a fact that Brennan and other people in the Obama administration have been reluctant to admit. But everything from U.S. reporting from on the ground in places like Yemen and Pakistan to studies that are done of widespread populations that despise the U.S. drone program, to other academic studies that have interviewed people on the ground that say they're scared to put their children into school and gather in large groups because they're frightened of the drones that are constantly overhead. This does generate blowback, and it's, Obama's counterterrorism policies, while they attempt to avoid getting into conventional ground wars like the Bush administration did, they are putting Americans in more danger than anything else.
Well, certainly a serious question of ethics here that at least this hearing is making us have this conversation. So certainly something to consider there. Thank you so much. That was John Glasser, senior editor at antiwar.com, weighing in.